I'm gonna pause it now.
We're getting everything situated and then we're gonna get started.
This is doing great.
She's doing fantastic. We do it one meeting. Are you good with that? Can you see down there?
No.
Okay.
I see, I can be back in that.
Great job. Good job.
Don't touch anything, Melissa. When can I give these out now?
There's 27 bags and still printing.
I know, I can't help it. Does anybody need one of these, an agenda? Okay,
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order, if that's okay.
yes.
7:04, calling the meeting to order. Open mic. Is there anyone here for open mic? Is there anyone online for open mic?
Oh, here we go. Hold on. No, no, no.
All right,
As of yet.
Person, no one online, for open mic. We're going to move on to food clinic updates.
We have two clinics scheduled. The first one will be at the senior center, it's on October 15th. The second one will be October 20th in the basement level of town hall. You do need to pre-register. The link will be provided on the website once it's live.
Any questions?
Yes, but the better is, so, like, in the department, we would be taking high road and we would be taking experiments.
So the high dose is recommended for age 55 and over, and it's just an additional strain of the flu that could be around. So it's recommended for a physician, 55 and over.
And having without choice or like, is that a parameter like animal level, or will they high road or they have a choice?
They don't have a choice.
Oh,
It's only on the driving.
oh,
Any other questions? Moving on to activity reports. Let's start with Christine West's report. Starting at the end of the table, you can have any questions, so.
No questions, thank you.
Bobby,
No question.
Ahmed?
Yeah, the final question, if I could ask, I ask, if in the meantime, in your text, there was one positive case found in the county, so, and I see that, in the history report that, the guy with the highest color, the code red, okay? So, like, is there any, something like, something for the hospital,
So the West Nile virus risk has been elevated due to the number of positive mosquito samples that we keep finding. We don't have a positive human case in Billerica, however, during the month of September, that's usually when the positive human cases show up. The individual who was positive was in another community, I don't know if it was Natick or Ashland, really, one of those hospitals, okay, yeah. It wasn't in Billerica, I wasn't privy to, what community it was, so, we continue to recommend that people use, bug spray, EPA food bug spray when we go outside to avoid all mosquito bites. Because there is a risk of getting West Nile virus from the West Nile virus infecting mosquitoes.
And, you think, if there has to be some communication outcome over town, in the.
So we've sent out a few communications in August when we were treating and when the risk level went up. We treated some areas that had positive mosquito hot pools that were identified and we'll continue to treat if we continue to find positive leads, but yeah, we can try to further educate the public and, you know, messaging about it, having lots of.
We're looking for holding in the evening, dusk hours, monitoring outdoor sports and activities.
Yeah.
And you have been making these code red calls. John,
Nothing.
thank you very much. Please keep everyone updated on West Nile because it doesn't affect so many. Edward Slack is next in my book. First of all, do you want to give any updates or anything? This words stands for itself.
It stands for itself. She's been pretty busy and has had vacation as well.
Are you getting the table? John?
I have no questions, like, I've had the voting training done in the past, it's pretty impressive, super helpful with the first response and stuff, so. But,
Thank you.
Beautiful about, moving that, that's real, that's a part-time. Like, I thought we already graduated.
So the Billerica Community Wellness, or forget the name of the organization, is the nonprofit organization. The person that's been leading in charge is retired and wants to give it over to them, and they give it over to the Board of Health, because Bethany has helped out a lot this past year. And I haven't given the green light, say yes, we'll take that. And it's, and that's good to help participate, looking, take on, past.
And just to be history, it started with the Board of Health.
There you go. It was a lot harder.
Yes, it started with the Board of Health and then it went to the nonprofit and now it's trying to shift its way back.
So based on that, with this, you think we have enough people to move this?
I think that's a conversation we have to make sure that we have the manpower, because it is very well received in the community, and it cannot stop.
That's right.
So it's going to be work, but it's
Oh,
something that has to be done.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to make it happen, but understand the parameters. All right, moving on to Crystal's report. Starting at the end,
no questions like this.
Bonnie?
2933 Boston Road, there's no sewage up there in the Boston Road.
That is correct, there is no sewerage at that end.
There's 41, those condos have sewage.
Yes.
It's on a private pumping station.
I was on pumping station.
That's it.
That can do
Come in.
Just one question about mosquito control is the school knows and chicks at home. You think they would have to spray this?
They think perhaps they sprayed that area of the high school because there is a mosquito down on Bosley. And now it's within the range of the high school. So we just had to go through the notification process for applying pesticides to a school. And there's not a session, you still have school groups meeting and doing the other activities. So I know superintendent, facilities to ensure that they're following their IPM and ensuring that they're notifying. But it's more positive than something we've ever found. We would work with people with do treatment of it, because it is a small hazard. They can also modify the hours that they have school activities outside. We've done that several years in the past. But we're not recommending that when you want it.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you.
We just had it.
Moving on to Javi's report. And there's been very good visit.
Hopefully.
All right, Joe?
Again, as you just pointed out, Bobby has been very, very busy. I find our report super helpful. I have no question.
Bobby?
Any more questions also?
Amit?
Oh, yeah, I would decide now, this, 54, Kanoli Road actually, so. I'm very curious about that, original complaint issue, it is also actually, given that the system is already closed, also the company is a big 90% violations are connected, so it just, I think that, just only 10% is revenue, so, obviously, in last year's election, although not there or not responding to them, any violation. But it's just something that, maybe some conversation, then. That it will not complain to them,
So probably have to, communicate with the property owner is driving, the repeats. Is, correcting the violation with junk in the exterior. And the property owner, well, had a, I don't know, the agreement, obviously, is responsible for all materials on the outside, the property owners. And work with the auditors for that, it's just been going on for a while, not on, that's the third, and that's our next option. So the owner is fully aware of the date, so the goal is to just really try to get compliant before that passes.
Very helpful. And I'm a question on the 119. And sure, it looks like, they can all about the issue, and after that, there is a change,
So, thank you. I asked Bobby for an update last, so I was just waiting, because I was curious about what's happening with that. So, I'll find out and give you that.
John?
Nothing to add, it's nice to see a case closed on this list and. Obviously very busy.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Sheila's report. Yeah, give it to you.
So I just, again, had a question. Salmonella is one of the most common food poisonings, correct?
It's pretty common, yeah.
And it's very hard to nail down exactly where you pick it up because you can eat something you don't realize or touch and you don't realize, so. This is a bunch of other cases in one spot. This is just something we follow up on, is that correct?
That's the protocol.
Awesome. Other question, thank you.
Bobby?
Yeah, no question.
Amit?
Oh. Yeah, I have a question about, external digital validation. Looks like,
I'm sorry, violation,
lease trap violation.
no research, got it.
So, the first question is, looks like, letters of the. All storage is in the road. So, the question is. Did they have violation and after the violation is found it out or this was the violation?
So the inspections allow us to actually visually see, the condition of the tank a little bit. We do get reference in, I feel like it adds another layer to our grease program, because the records, yeah, they may not have pumped the frequency. And so after the inspections, whether it's followed up, it will not be established, we will have pumping done in a week or two. That'll be useful.
Also, we shouldn't have to go outside, and then not those actually, as the studio, what was the issue?
So the carbon monoxide alarm went off, there was some issue with the soda dispenser. We see the area where, not the actual dispenser, but the storage area. Bobby responded to that, and Shayla followed up, when they were ready to resume operation.
And then the last question is about, protein, the most of the looks like, if we just offer, like last 1.5 years, and the worst, I think they are very common, like, with whether major or minor violation, this is first time they have to usually go the street. I'm just curious that if they need a retraining or something, their staff. If they do something, or owner will be.
Yeah, we were trying to understand this one in particular, because, typically you go into the documents in, it's a stand-up operation, they have a book that they maintain, because they're a franchise, that they need to maintain certain standards, and this, I think the manager, wasn't there, has been on the whole, so there's been a lapse of, and, she brought their attention for having closed them down to, ensure that they're following the sanitation practices that the notice had. So it was quite surprising.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question about the life care, and, when we do close down facilities like that, any provisions? Yeah, residents who depend on us.
That's what we're trying to, gather the information about it, so that's also what we used to talk about.
Oh,
This is exciting, because that does bring some part of what is the issues with, residents, and I can only assume that they can pull from the other life care facility in the area. But they should have an operation in and the state, has review, and we should have that in place.
But that will be discussed later on. Mosquito control update, we talked about briefly, but please give us more information.
So just the notice that the fog in Middlesex County, not in our area, but just continue to wear bug spray, avoid peak hours of mosquitoes when you're outside. Use EPA approved repellents and appropriate clothing. That's my thing.
All right, and we can put something out on social media to that effect, at least weekly, just to. If we can go on, nice and don't hear. Next up is we have a vacancy to fill for the vice chair. We'll take nominations for someone who would like that position.
Should I stop?
I will take a motion of nomination for vice chair.
Yeah, I make a motion to, or make comment to leader and a vice chair for. Second.
Does Robert accept the nomination?
No. I'm going to.
We have a motion, if we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Don, do you accept the nomination? I promise not to miss too many meetings. We have a motion and a second to accept the nomination, and a vote.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We now have a vice chair. Congratulations, John. All right, moving on, our next meeting is October 6th. All those interested, we will be back in our regularly scheduled room. So we can all go back upstairs. And that brings us to set our 7:15 hearing of 12 Shawshene Ave. George Allen, Consulting Construction, application for variance, chapter 5, section 5, rules and regulation regarding floodplain.
Good evening, Stephen Gressler, of Steven's Way, George Allen Sons Construction. I have a flash drive with pen on it, I don't get the ability to do that.
You're pushing it.
So,
We can do it. We can put it in my computer.
We try.
As long as my face gets out of the screen.
Except I took the paper.
Yes.
I have to show you which file.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's that? You see it all right over there? I can zoom in if you.
We blow it up a little bit once.
This one's.
There we
Oh,
go.
You have it for Shashi.
Oh, is this McHugh?
Yeah.
That'll do it.
no.
No, it's not. Sorry. Thank you. Now you only gotta go to that one. Which- And the other one, I'm really good with that. Again, Stephen Gressler, way, probably acoustic section work. Represent George Allen and that employee, for him, Sons Construction, applied to construct the building. Within 25 feet of the floodplain and that 6 feet, from the theme of floodplain. They are also, some drainage, breaking drainage problem out there. That currently exists, so. That part of the property would be 6 feet from the floodplain, we did do groundwater testing, we're still 2 feet above the groundwater condition before. There will be no flooding onto the property. But within the floodplain, there's currently a catch basin across the road. That goes down, and it's actually buried, we did a lot of exploration, hammered. Came on and put some water through there to try and, find the end of that pipe, which we never found, but we had a pretty good idea where it was. We got this because of the condition of that pipe. They found some broken spots, and again, daylight on it. The pipe is kind of substandard to the point where the neighbor across the street had even raised complaints that the catch basin, will drain very, very slowly. I think the only thing probably keeping it going is it's all sand in the area, so as it goes into the broken pipe, it will slowly dissipate out into the sand. So Mr. Evans agreed to kind of relocate that pipe, he's gonna put a manhole across the street. Another one down to make it turn, and then provide the town of the easement for the drain pipe, like in order to achieve gravity and get that to work. Outlet of the pipe with that. So technically it is or plane. So we could fix, you know, ongoing existing very poor drainage situation. That's why we're here. But the answer is we're serious.
Still, would you like to add anything?
We'll see, that the area that's gonna be disturbed, say the rip wrap, and trying to. Rip wrap that you're putting in the floodplain. It's a small area.
I make sense with that, and it is a small area, we have put in the brick wrap, obviously, it's just that ocean, so, you know, especially if it's local right on the ocean rivers. Suspect it's all, it's in there, it's just. Brick wrap is an area.
No additional questions.
Anybody at the table?
I have no question.
Bobby?
Steven, you're gonna replace pipe. You're gonna relocate the pipe.
George is gonna relocate the pipe.
You put another catch basin.
And you know, the catch basin, it's two more manholes that just gonna help with that seat saving. You, if you went in, it is expensive as well.
The reason you move it is because it would be where the house is going.
No, the reason we're moving it is because it's broken, it needs to be fixed anyway, so. Why not, why not, from the house, you requested that. That again makes sense.
Excellent, thank you. One more question.
How long is the relocate? You know, 3 to 8 project. Yeah.
I'll get a free copy.
It's gone through the conservation, so. Which is a law.
Okay.
That's that one.
Yeah, that was my only question, and you're going through conservation there.
Thank you. Are there any others? Yes. Please come to the microphone, identify yourself. Name and address, please, when you get that. Thank you.
My name is Brian Lewis, I live on 14 Shawshing Road, right next to the way we're talking. I understand they want to move the drain, but where? That's my question, because it is all conservation land. And you're gonna be looking to, you know, simple trees to get out to the river again. And right now, it's like, we're already getting street flooding and everything else, so I'd really like to know the full picture.
Through the chair, right there.
Yes.
You know, turn around.
Sure.
So here's the catch basin right in that exists now.
Steve, can you punch the microphone so we can be recorded as soon as possible?
Okay, so the pipe goes in, see the deed in. That's a meaningful, the leg of the great pipe is where it goes now, we gave the camera to locate some spots there. It's very. So we're gonna put a manhole where that D is, take a left, there's another D, there'll be a manhole there. And then I'll go down alongside the driveway.
Okay, so you're going closer to the house.
Closer to the house, and then with that kind of triangle thing is, that's where it opens. And the ovals are what they call riprap, it's just stone that stops the water. You know, eroding the ground.
Now, I'm still worried about, even though it might be doing that a little, but we still get a lot of flying getting out of there. I mean, my cellar goes up the bottom all the time. The neighbor across the streets, cellar goes up the bottom all the time. And my other neighbor on the other side My other two neighbors fill up with water all the time. And I had one catch going on one side of my property, and another one going on this side now. Well, there's two of them now. I'm just worried about the water.
Oh, well, these pipes will help to get the water, you know, past the elevation of the house, if there is floodplain, right, where one river.
Problem is where the house is being built. It is right smack down on the property, right, so it says 9 feet from the six. There's a lot of very big trees that do.
It's all been surveyed, it will be 9 feet from the property line, I can start to stick in. Not sure which state, see, I don't think the house is actually been state there yet. If it was, it was approximately, but it definitely 9 feet from the property line. Yes, we're getting 3 sounds.
Somebody had staked there, like 6 feet from the top. That's
We can say the property.
where. I just thought 6 goes like that's big house.
Yeah, we don't know what the property line is. And. So 60.
Now, they scheduled to be checked out.
Yes.
I got property.
Yeah.
Staked out.
Those are 3 big pine trees, all they hang in my house. I just had to file a claim because of those trees, but I moved it. Yeah, I would like to get rid of that.
Now, sir,
I believe
are there any other butters?
Yes. My name is Phyllis Dumont, and I live at 7 Shop. And my concern is that my house was one of the original houses developed in the neighborhood after 1940. I never had water in my basement. I never had a sub pump because of the colonial that was built at 10. When we came before the board at 10, and the 10, it took down the existing bungalow, it was one of the original houses when the neighborhood was developed. We were assured that this lot would not be developed because of the flooding and because of that catch basin that goes through there. The town had agreed to that, and that's part of why the stipulations on 10 is that they have that paver driveway. There's supposed to be a swale on the other side of 10, between 10 and 8 for the water to drain. It does not, and I don't know who's supposed to maintain that swale, because the residents don't, the town doesn't, it's full of vegetation and hot top debris. I now have something in my basement that I never had. My in-laws built my house back in the 40s, they never had to have a sub pump. When that 10 got built, and the same thing's gonna happen with this lot, the lot is sunken down below the road level, so you're gonna have to grade it up. And 10 got graded up, and we were sure the water would drain from the swale, it would go down their driveway, it would not come back and cause any impact on the neighborhood. I can't even get my mail on it because of the puddling now, the bonding in front of my house. This, things look good on paper, but in actuality, you cannot tell water where it's supposed to. And this lot, since the dawn of time, again, since the beginning of this neighborhood even being developed, was always deemed an unbuildable lot because the town recognized this when 10 was going through their variances. So I want to know what's changed. The river hasn't changed, the wetlands haven't changed, so why are we doing this? When 10 was taken down and it was a bungalow house, it's like, yeah, okay. You're rebuilding, you're upgrading the neighborhood, you're letting put up a house by today's standards. Obviously not going back to, not for another bungalow behind. There's no reason for this. This is not a house that is being upgraded. This is not a house that's being replaced. There is no need to be doing this. It's going to harm the neighborhood. It's going to harm. My neighbor at 9 Shawshene Road now has a PVC pipe pumping that comes out around their house and goes out to that. And tries to go to that culvert, that drain. And that was never there before that now. you're going to cause the problem. And to say, did you all say that this had already gone before conservation? Because I didn't get a notice about that to be able to speak there, but taking down all these mature trees, how much more water is that displacing? You know, vegetation uses the water, how much more is that going to cause of a water problem? There's no this lot has never been deemed buildable, why now? And the town has agreed it was not buildable before, when 10 was put in, there were provisions, we were sure. Again, the placement of their propane tanks, and now you're gonna have to move that, what has changed? To make them all think that now this lot is buildable? That's my question, and what harm are you gonna do to the rest of us there? I've never had a water problem before, now I do. There's ponding in the road that ices up in the winter time too, so I can tell you the number of cars that slide by my driveway now because of that ponding, probably the snow melting, because it's sweat. Some of these drainage things that you all put in actuality do not work. So that's my concern in my vivacity also go, no, there's no reason this lot to suddenly now be buildable, the town is going to recognize it as being unbuildable. It's gonna be harmful to the neighborhood. That's, thank you.
If I could just address the part of the bill issue, in 2024, the town passed the Public Affordable Homes Act. And it allows certain lots, certain sizes, this being one of them that had not previously had grandfather status. It kind of obtained, eliminating some of the merger doctrine with certain lots. This is one, this gives the opportunity. Have a home, it's limited on the size, to be a smaller home.
We all had this letter.
You would only have. Square feet.
No, that's next. That's next one.
And as far as small water, this what those fish downs, decided to go right, there's a fish French. Creation system of the gutters.
I can't hear you, but it's all over the place. Can you let them stop? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, you sent to the wrong.
That's okay, I can't hear them and I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Please continue, I do apologize.
So the stormwater, the right way will drain into a stone trench, the stone trench in turn, basically filtration system, that's a gutter system. That was still a signal in the filtration system, so all the imperviation, impervious area on this lot will be charged.
You won't get finding it 7 incorrectly with the.
You know, I don't even know why it bonds, so it's very flat road, there are berms in the road, there are, you know, Cape type berms and everything like that, so. But all I can tell you is we're gonna fix what's happening in front of us, and we're not gonna contribute to anybody else's drainage well, but it's fix them.
Thanks.
It won't fix the quantity in front of my house, because my house is caused by 10. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because when the plans came up to 10, this is what occurred. It was gonna be an impervious driveway, it was gonna be a swale. And 10, and it's gonna happen here, because this lot is below street level. You're gonna end up grading it up, and that's what happened to 10, you're gonna grade it up, so now everything comes back onto them. There is no way that this lot, if you all had gone and looked at it, that they have to be grading, because otherwise it's sunk you down in below street level. That it wouldn't be worthy to put a house on it, because that's where all the water and runoff. So it's not gonna fix the problem in my house. And my house, while I'm discouraged that it's happening, again, it's not that I'm opposed to change, because they took down the bungalow, and not, again, you're gonna put a house up by today's standards, which ended up being the colonial and ended up being rated towards the road. But I don't see how this is not going to cause a problem. And where it's been recognized forever that this lot is a drainage lot, it is a lot that it is wetlands, conservation, whatever you all, designate it as. Why does it change, it's changing now just because of an affordable home? But what are you doing to the environment and the damage that you're gonna put on others, because like in Ryan's house? If you're breaking up this lot, you're gonna have all the water running towards him too. And again, everything looks great on paper, I was not supposed to be affected, my antenna was put up, and I am. And so my thing is, this may look good on paper, but in actuality, how good is it going to be? And I just don't think one house is going to solve the affordable house problem that we have in Massachusetts. And where, again, the town has always recognized this lot as being, the drainage for the neighborhood and we were sure on Tenda that it was not going to be changed. So now, just because of the affordable housing, it's too close to the river. You're talking about a lawn, we get the DPW notices about runoff fertilizer and everything else. There's no need to put another house here so close to the river like that. There's no need to put a house here that's gonna affect the whole neighborhood and cause, they're just,
Thank you.
It's like, I live in do a short sheet in this town, 10 short sheets in this town, you're right, what you built hundreds of houses in this town, you certainly there's not any hundreds of, thousands of houses in this town, I can tell you. This isn't gonna cause a drainage problem for anybody else, it actually does break down, you can't build a house with 12 vehicles, so much greater, break it towards, drainage and everything. It's not intended to be up and brought back to the road, it's intended to catch the drainage, put it in the ground, like that, so this isn't something that's unusual. To this.
Are there any other butters?
I was to say something else, also.
Quickly, please, yes.
I know that it's a very close. That's the list. We do burn a house next to me, all the waters are gonna go right into mine. It's gonna flood out my whole yard, because I already get water from normal rain. Well, if they burn up that house, because right now it's 3 feet below the road, I measured it today. It's 2 to 3 feet below the road. That property. And so is mine. Because if you go up the road year after year after year, they pave the new over, now it's above my property. So I'm worried about the land, I'm worried about the water. I've already had to replace my oil burner because it got flooded up. Before, and now it's gonna be even worse with this house. And so I'm really not sure about this, but
That's not a code, this is just how you show.
I'd like to believe everything's gonna happen, this will work on that.
Or any additional questions?
It has, and like the point, you can see the direction that, some people go with that, is that kind of where Brad is, people point towards, that way. The proposed rate, we're not bumping it up. We're not allowed to put more drainage onto this to do with this property. The DPW and the new stormwater management, they've got through the Board of Health, it's been very effective to ensure that these type of things, which it has happened.
Well, the current part doesn't work well.
I'm sorry.
The current doesn't work well. The current drainage pipe is there doesn't work well.
No, it works, it's just not, it's broken, and it's in sand, and it doesn't have an outlet, it's just slower than it should.
I don't know.
I'm on track.
I just want to say that, we're here, for the 25-foot offset. To to the floodplain. We're not here to grant waivers to any of the regulations for drainage. Those are all apply to this lot and all need to comply. We're here just for the work within 25 feet of the floodplain.
Correct.
Thank you.
When was the conservation hearing?
We probably do last time about a month ago, your condition is already, there's an issue for taking out.
All right, we need to make a decision and a motion on work within the floodplain.
I'm making a motion to grant a variance to work with 25 feet of flood. For 12 North Street Road.
Second.
We have a motion on the second. All those in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Unanimous to work within the floodplain.
One thing I'd like to address to the board, I was not notified of this meeting. I did not get a certified letter, and if there's gonna be any more meetings, I'd like to be informed about it.
And neither of us got one for the conservation.
We cannot control conservation.
Yeah.
I'm just saying your notification system is a problem.
We will review
The notification system is to go to the assessor, not because they give us the list of the record. We have to be certified, and they have no control over when the mail might not be before that.
Yeah.
There was no license given, they were needed in the town, the both, work out in the conservation commission. And you're here. You had legal notice, but you.
I'm here because my neighbor told me.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you got it, no, so you.
He told me, yeah, he told me.
Gentlemen, we will look into it with the chief assessor's office. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will look into it. Thank you very much. All right, next up is 62 Avenue. PA Village and Trust, application for waiver of regulations, chapter 5, section 5, rules and regulations regarding the floodplain. Who is there to present?
I'm home. Now you can do that. My name is Lauren Hennifer.
Can you just?
I'm a homeowner. At 9 you got.
Who's here for six?
On the
Who's there for
paper, can you
six?
just write it in?
So,
Write your name and address for me, please.
who is
Okay,
presenting?
The
No,
chair.
there you go, sorry. Let him present first.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because it's our.
Okay. Make sure this now.
There's plenty of time, we'll
There's
hear.
plenty of time, don't worry, I'll let you speak. He has to present the plan first.
For the record, Stephen Gresham, that's the way I'm here for a path amendment for 62 Ave. They are based on the green engineering floodplain maps that were formed in 1971, adopted in 1979. There is green engineering floodplain zone on this site. However, at some point, the upsize the culvert that runs on Cook Street, ended that from a 24-inch pipe to a 48-inch culvert, which essentially increases the area by 4 times, which is essentially eliminated that flood. We did submit a 100-year flood study, basically a hydro-pad program, analyzing the whole area, using the 48-inch pipe and shown that the floodplain, not even the floodplain, the 100-year flood elevation came to, I think it's 90. 99.23, which is, well, which is within Sweden. Both historically that they make the difference on the flooding. Grading, again, with that code conservation commission, this one is see. And weather conditions pretty much at the same time. There's also an additional area. That there's a lot of the process of demolishing, cleaning up the site, the site was pretty low. We got there. So we had to do that. But the bottom line here is like in a lot of places, it is outdated. That we get some information, what green engineering was, the history of that is it's actually a bit funny study, what's meant to be a floodplain study. And they looked at the whole town, and it's actually a very good study. Alright, but they made recommendations, this is what we need to do. To make sure, improve the drainage flows across town. We want to be recommendations specific to exercise, so. Green engineering became an 1979 version of what they decided that the waters were Greiston. 79, that all the drainage improvements had before they changed that the FEMA floodplain is running across Brook Street, and that gets updated all the time, as recently as July. You more updated, technical. What's that? So we're just here to kind of show that what we did here recommended, increase the footage, use color, reduce the amount of flooding on the years. Longer, that was the plan. And yeah, it was the plan. Thank you.
Crystal?
So I just wanted to comment, going from 24 to 48 culvert. I think it's a good justification for this waiver, however, I have not reviewed the floodplain site of this committee, because I don't have the training to review it. So the board could vote to, ask for review. And that is my comment regarding this project.
No?
Yeah, you the buddies first? Okay. I'm the one board. I'm the one on board, so I don't know whether we do the money, so I'm sorry.
We had any last question?
Okay, that's fine. So what I'm hearing here is that the engineering was done by Mr. Dresser has shown it's a good thing, but we don't have an engineering role from the town, yeah? And we can refer that to the town? Okay, I have no.
Bobby?
David, is your old house on that lot?
Yeah, it was, this is one of the was disrepair, this is one of the most disrepaired dirty sites that I've seen in a while. It's in pretty bad shape, they had cleaned the whole site. And got to repair it.
But there was nothing on the way before.
There was a house, there was a driveway, there was old tents and trash and a lot of that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, John?
So yeah, I have to admit, I have a lot of issues with green engineering, floodplain that. Seen cases where there's grossly incorrect. I've spent money myself to do the flood studies to prove that, that it is not what the engineering floodplain maps that we adopted in 1979.
Quality is 71 and our documents is 79, so everything that happened between 71 and 79 is not actually part of the study.
I owned a property that I had to come to the board for a waiver that had a swimming pool and being created in that flood. So, I look at FEMA and practical drainage. We have a culvert and a stream bed that runs from this property. And we inverted that culvert, 48-inch culvert, with quarter feet lower than, you know, stream bed, so the water gets the stream bed and gonna run under Brook Street towards the Shawshing River. FEMA is located, you know, the true floodplain, which was just updated in July, is located on the other side of the Brook Street, a couple hundred feet away from Brook Street. Uh, So,
Yeah.
You know, the fact that this board has to keep seeing these waivers to green engineering, flood fighting is just, I think it's a burden among the residents.
All right, now we'll take the voters. Please identify yourself. Name and address.
This is my Nancy. So Gloria Niebuhr, I live at 9 Q Ave. Across the street from that house. Where, she passed away. I've had many neighbors with me from many of the houses around that house. She's a nice lady, but yes, it's disarray. So yes, I'm happy that somebody's going to be, but that we're all, it's going to be nice to look at. We have major concerns about it being removed from the floodplain because, living there, knowing what had happened. Actually, he's probably speak to this better, so. Yeah, hey, come out and, help me out here, because Claire has significant more information about. Okay, I'm back to her. Over 25 years and 30 years and more years, and knowing what happened when that area just got, say, those others some of that baby stuff, or, you know, filling it up, and what happens is if it's not wide enough, the water doesn't go where it's supposed to go, or across the street without the river is, but the soccer field, it backs up into this, filled up 2 feet, 3 feet in my basement. And then, more said, and so that knowing that that needs to be open is a fun. And talking, so luckily, you know, since we keep things clear as wide as possible. You don't have the flooding that existed before. And so this is concerning all of us deeply, because that means our basements have just become full. And it's a big concern. So I see what you're saying, that the engineering studies we were a little bit over conservative years ago in the 70s, sense. However, as nature would have it, as you will know, that nature goes in certain ways, and this area does. That's issue 1, and issue 2 is yes, this very the house and pulling that away. There is a concern now, so that over a house is doing, it's probably my setback, and that I think that people are going to digging it out. Is already, I've already seen my sin from the digging, and they're cleaning up that you've done, and that there's already been my sin for it, and that I wish that I would ask, request that the builder should do something more houses or moving control now that they're going to be digging up the house. And then the third thing is, there is a house in the house. I don't know the law behind the eviction or however all of those are don't know. But the owners of that house, she passed away, and her daughter, who is not very capable, her cat got inside, and we literally have a picture of her today as a cat in the window, and they're about to destroy this house. So that's the third request.
What's the request?
To basically, so we call animal controls to go in there, what have you, allowed to try to have, and so that this not gonna wash it.
There's no bad issue, right? I know, getting that, we have got there, that water, that. We worked with the previous owners, get that.
Right, so you just, this confirmation has not been each one out, but it has.
And the demolition process, because that's involved. I haven't seen any.
I have, So it's two.
I mean, my sister.
I was saying.
It's.
Next. I'm Claire Harrington. I live right next door. I've been in 8 years. My grandparents owned the house before me. Oh, sorry, beginning now. Okay, my grandparents owned the house before me, they've lived here since the 1920s. I've seen the flood that we had with that guy. I've been here 47 years myself. It comes up and over my backyard and across it over and it's into your yard. Since they put the distance school in, which used to be Percy's Field, because it's the whole indoor ice skating. All that water that the school would have had, all now comes through the work, because it has to shift someplace else. So that's basically that the school's been up there for 1979. So that all adds to the floodplain area. And goes right behind my cousin lives at 2 Elmwood Ave, through my house for around that 8 Cubic Ave. Through Dennis Tatman's yard, who has now passed away, which the first section of the work, everybody tries to keep the road clean. My husband takes out stuff on work all the time, but he's 68 years old. Down in the area, they had all kinds of stuff down in the work, trees, ties, which clog up the work, so the end of the work stays nice and peaceful, and a lot of the times it's not pouring, otherwise it all backs up. After it comes across the stream also, but if they raise it up and get it out of the floodplain, where's all that extra water going to go? It's not, there's no.
Well, I think we're kind of, there's a misconception here. I think everybody's going, they think that we're eliminating the floodplain, is that we're filling the site, we're filling the brook. We're not changing it.
It doesn't work, you can't do that, that's the help, the whole entire book.
Okay, but we're not like eliminating a floodplain per se, we're just saying that the
You want to
floodplain.
take out of the floodplain because then we'll be responsible for that area.
Well, we're still responsible, for at least paying flood insurance, this is
Okay.
a local floodplain that was established and set.
All right, put it this way, I had my house, my property separated. And I had a house built for my son. And because I was building the house 130 feet out of floodplain, because all the time I had in the flood zone. I went through almost 3 years trying to get everything pre-approved because it was in the floodplain. They would come out, they would measure, they would look, they would see, they would put the wall down, the wall would have to be 130 feet away from the brook. You couldn't put any dirt, anything over 130 feet away from the brook. You couldn't cut down any trees, you couldn't cut down any vegetation, you couldn't do anything to build a brand new house next to it. And that took years and years, but that was all out of floodplain.
And do the engineering.
Yeah, but
But
the thing
I
is.
didn't know the difference.
The thing is still, the floodplain is the floodplain. I have seen the water build up in that brook. And go right across all of the Cuba. And not just the 100-year flood. I mean, how many times did they drive by, Jacobson, and see their driving over their walls flooded out in the Shashi River. And when that happens to me, it's even worse than I got that. So I'm just saying, all the extra water, gotta go somewhere. And if they're out of the floodplain area, then everybody else can get all the extra. Thank you. Sir?
Can I ask you? I the reason that they weren't allowed to put there is because they did not need to notify the conservation commission, so if they had gone within 100 feet of the wetlands, you know, we had the wetlands flag. Sunville Bells over there, and they were allowed to not have to go to the conservation commission, that's what the 100 feet. So they see outside of the office, they were not allowed to do it. If they were to go in there, they would have filed the conservation commission. So that's what happened. We're not filling in, but, you know, we're doing just like a normal house, we're not displacing water, it's not going somewhere else, we're still doing the stormwater management. I don't know, she talks about the bricky water with sticks and all that stuff. You know, that certainly would affect the drainage and, you know, maybe those floods occurred if they didn't go on that, if they had before they, I don't know, when did they replace that culvert?
Right up to the solar bills,
Right after this.
right up to the.
Hard to add, so that as the flooding occurred.
Yes, yes. It's had for 3 times that I go back to school.
I'm not sure.
It's right, start time.
Fred Ocean, I'm in second if you have, I'm not against any progress over there, the work that's already been done, over there, been wonderful cleaning it up, so we're doing a good job. Just with the style of it, and we appreciate all that. I just wanted to verify what the neighbors are saying, that working has been a problem for us in the past. So we just want to be sure anything that's done over there is done right, so I'm not. I can't speak to the floodplains and all that, it's not my business or any of that, but I do have a question of what's going on with it now. There's been like probably 13 trucks of, fill that's been dumped in the yard, is there a reason why there's so much fill in the yard? I mean, you could even walk through that yard and so much fill in it, like mountains.
It's there, so we can go up the dump, so it comes off 100-yard trailer, so they can.
Sir, come to the microphone. You better take yourself, please come to the microphone.
Dirt all in. So the dirt that is referred to, we got from the bagel shop, and when you use that, get the excavator up high, so we can load the dumpster. When we do the house down, we get the machine to load it, and then use that fill it needs.
Temporary.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, I mean, the fill will, the intent is to grade a lot, you said, grade a lot. We just need, so we, all the comfortable, yes, we are doing this, we are, us, this is side down. We got opportunity of also some.
One at a time, please.
Awesome. The opportunity roads for them to be good, so they just drop it, you know, that down the hill, so. So you can't, they already had their work conditions from conservation commission, that's the association, that's we acknowledge that this item on ours, site is relatively flat, so we have to keep up with groundwater. We talked about like raising on the house, there is stormwater management. Stormwater management bylaw. But it's also the additional room for the purchase area. The house now actually extends on Ellenwood Ave. Everything grades toward the back, it will still, even though it'll go around the house, it will still grade to the stream. Yeah, and the purchase area is managed through stone trenches and.
Are there any other abutters that wish to speak?
Yeah.
Okay,
The one Bill Mall, I live in Lebanon City,
I'm sorry, the name, sir?
Bill Mall, I know that the, see many of them. On the left. So, the first thing is 16 loads of ground, very much. So you get into the dumpster, you get a problem with that. What are you gonna do about that, figure it out? Well, the house is down. And then you have to dig a hole, big mess to put up in the house.
It's gonna grade around whatever it's left on it.
Okay, so currently. That culvert, that 48-inch culvert that goes through that property. That's up all the time because of all the debris that comes through now. Adding more water to that. Is gonna be a big problem with that water system. I've been lucky. I've been in the house for 16 years, 15 years. My cell has not taken it long. Anything. About it doesn't get. I've seen that water back up to. I don't know, maybe 50 feet from the house. Which if it got up to there, it would flood anything. I'm not looking for that, I don't want to need this any worse than this. I'm gonna have a problem with it, when you put in that 48 inch problem with that.
We're not putting it in exists.
Okay,
One that it really keeps getting and stuff, it's like,
debris is gonna keep getting in there because it's flooding, I think downtown.
what's right,
The great fun. It's not stopping.
okay, but that's not us problem, that's a town problem.
But yeah,
Yeah, well, we're saying is, as it's built at this design, it no longer floods the way it did in 1979. You're saying increase the size of the stick by 4 times. You've heard that.
yes, it has.
Yeah. We're replacing a house and a driveway with a house, right? So the house and the driveway now don't have any, there's no gutter system, there's no stone, there's no nothing. The gutter system and the infiltration system is chambers underground, stormwater, the initial stormwater procedure, so. We'll go ahead and
And then.
it will go the same place it goes, it will go the same place it goes now, but also in the driveway now, change it. And
You say, anything that I've been taking 2 weeks out of that,
by the,
I did, not to change.
no, we're adding, 43,000. So we're adding water, we're taking, we're cleaning it up, we're adding up water.
What happens if this plant doesn't work?
What it
How you
has,
upset?
and there's a lot of.
It will walk.
Right.
Is that, it's not saying. Yeah, that's.
So that's what's gonna happen if you go out, you can go out for a trail.
You know.
We're not-
We're not.
I mean, you're talking about, okay, my 36 years of experience. That's thousand houses that it's that they've had set up evidence.
And if you did like that, that's student months. So I'm putting that down. It's this.
It's coming down. No, it's.
Keeping this well, we're gonna go. Something in the lot, just there. Here's the most surprising, you have, you've got a lot better system. So, well, I have that, something. But we give you a plan, you, soon you guys in the road, that's a water.
All right, thank you. No, but I need to see if anybody else hasn't spoken that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone and identify yourself. We need to stay on track of what we need to get accomplished.
You don't need to speak first, so we'll go again.
Can I step in now?
No, but somebody who hasn't spoken, speak first. And then we'll go back.
Well, you said, oh, I'm here and going, so we're trying to be.
Hi, I'm Laura Jane. I live at 15 Cook Street on the other side of the street. I'm not, downstairs. Be cute. No. That area is already pretty saturated. I've had big giant trees in that paper road. All over, the ground is already so saturated. It's definitely a floodplain back there. There's no taking any of the filling property up, which is what it looks like they're doing right now. And we have a lot of concerns about any filling on that property, because nothing will disperse evenly. It will all disperse towards the homes on the other side of McHugh, where it will go. And it has, yes. I have big piles in my backyard and then had before. The distance school has caused a lot of water to just kind of come through there, and it's really just getting saturated, all that whole area. I've had 3 very large trees fall into my yard. So I'm really concerned about any more felling. There's already been people felling, and I really don't want to see any more felling for one thing. It just makes it worse on my area. My neighbors.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet?
Hi, my name is Sandra Boshian, 72 Ave. I just have some questions about
I don't understand a lot of this, but from what I'm hearing, we're gonna be building on existing floodplain. Do I have that correct? Is that right? I thought I had that wrong.
We're building on land
Yes.
that they did a drainage study on in 1971.
Yeah.
1979, got converted to this, to be flood.
Yeah,
So 24 inch pipe at that time.
right. I got that.
It's the same time.
Yeah.
That pipe has been increased to 48 inches.
Right.
We've done engineering studies to show that.
I understand all that.
28 inch pipe.
Well, what are we hoping to do with this house? We building something that no one would be able to build? Unless you get this way,
The only. This screen, this local floodplain is very unique to the rings. Only in the Ringo where you see it, but that being said, we're given the opportunity to disprove that floodplain. Still exists.
Okay.
We can come in and say, hey, this has changed,
okay,
it was. 1971.
Yeah.
It was 6 years old. Okay, so, everything that's happened in the record since 1971.
Yeah.
And we know that's a lot. Development lots, good and bad,
Right.
improvements. Properties that have been built poorly without, all of that affects that. So we have a right to come in and say, hey,
right,
that's right. In fact, this study actually recommended the 24 inch pipe be improved for 48 inch.
yeah. So, right now, that house does not have a basement. That stands there today. That house is built on potatoes. So all the water that comes in gets to be absorbed under that house as well. Once you build that house, no matter what, you're gonna be displacing.
So we put it on like a cover system.
I understand
That
that.
goes into the ground, so that's better if we stay there now. Where it takes into the ground, what's there now, you put out a basement, it comes off.
So grab table, water stuff to the grab table, it has that one area to be absorbed, because there's nothing there, there's no basement, there's nothing.
Can I just interject?
It's just not, yeah.
You don't seem to have a clear presentation, we've got two different sides of the story here. I guess what I'm thinking would be to, refer this to the town's engineer for peer review.
That is a
So that the town engineer could give us that option.
We just wanted to give everyone a chance to be heard first.
So again, if there are more people who would like to speak, please come up and do so.
Okay.
Me sitting here, there's a lot of questions that seem to make sense.
Okay.
And get some additional answers from the town engineer.
Yeah.
To clarify what's going on, maybe very well to do. It's gonna have to come back to us for a vote, correct? So we have to come back to us to vote it,
If that's important to.
if that's the way you choose to go.
Okay.
But
In
right now,
addition, just so that there is proof, I have photos of canoes going up and down, when that tunnel goes over. Up and down the field. So it's, not 100 years ago. So, but I heard you say.
is there anyone else who hasn't spoken? Got it.
So like we said, I agree, I think we want to decide this time. I think that we do need engineering to take a look at it, to get the town's engineering input on it, as we heard at the beginning of this conversation. I would like to be a part of that. I don't think that that would be fair, that all that was said today, unless it's all being recorded, it is recorded, and that every single point is counteracted with response. I think every single point, every speaker deserves a response tonight. And so that engineering is gonna go back and take a look at this, they should hear these comments, hopefully it'll be written down. And then should be brought to the board again, decision. If that is decided by the board to not come to the board to have another hearing, then I would personally like to re-appeal that and say that I think that we should have a say in it, when it comes. So I would like to also know what is the process for appeal if we're not allowed.
Let's take one step at a time.
So what is the process?
So one step at a time, let's see what the motion is first, and then we'll go from there.
And how will you contact us if that has happened?
We're gonna make a motion here shortly, and then we'll know exactly what the next steps are.
And hear that tonight?
Yes,
And so then we can choose to find out if we should be able tonight or not.
correct, but let's get to that point first, so you know what the next steps are. Okay. The gentleman behind you has one more comment.
Maybe just address it, is the construction going to be sitting in the same footprint as the old home now? Driveway rules, or can I, maybe get a plan of that, or? So you get nervous?
You can barely see it, like, you see the 14 on that one? On the right hand side, yeah, and it goes to the left of that, it's gray line. See that vertical, that's the left hand side of the house, it's very blinking. Okay, so see the bump on the new house, just to the right of that, where the old house actually extends into the part of the film. So the old house was much more to the right, then there's one of the driveways. This is, center of this house.
But you said 40 trees around one year, are we talking bushing, we talking?
The streets, the next increase in truck, on most street trucks, and if we had a big city, we would be like, why can't we? But I think. Just, I mean, if you want to through Chris or through the board, get request them to give you questions and writing. Or always go back to last meeting, but I'll gladly respond to any question that the brothers might have. If it's their questions, still Crystal.
Thank you. The board have a motion to make.
I'd like to make a motion to refer this for peer review to the town engineering, with regards to the floodplain.
Once that peer review is done, it doesn't come back and have another meeting here, so the residents can be informed. Is that your motion?
Yes, we.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
All right, that's the question.
Yes.
That motion. Is that the town engineering for review, or is that for peer review?
Peer review.
Peer review.
I just wanted to use that, I think.
So we still have a motion on the floor, we do not have a second as of yet, do we have a second? Many seconds that. There's a motion and a second, all those in favor of sending this back for peer review and then bringing it back for another hearing?
Aye.
Four in favor, one opposed.
Will there be a bidding process of this peer review, how is this moving forward?
That's why, I had bring to the board, or, yes, I had already asked the town engineer, the stormwater engineer, you qualified for reading storm flood study that you submitted, because I'm not. Right. And, she said, no, that's not the expertise, so, yes, I was planning to reach out to some, peer reviewers that we use, to do the study, and I would respond to you with the quotes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion, engineering. No, this, I need to go back, sorry.
Okay, but when will the engineering study be done?
So I had to be into it, so I have to notify everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And this is open, there's no time.
as soon as peer review, as soon as peer review can get it done, we will get it back on the agenda and let everyone know.
And it doesn't. The way that things are going, the agenda, I mean, I would recommend you continue it to the next public hearing. And then if it's not ready, then why not add?
So that we.
Would you like to make the option to continue to the next, to give it a time certain for the next hearing as a placeholder in case the peer review is done? That way, everybody here knows to show up at our next meeting, which is October sixth, I believe.
And, yeah, when I think I have the virus list, if for some reason it's continued, if when I send out for the last mail and you know, this.
So October sixth, 7:15.
Make a motion to continue, 62 Avenue application for the regulations to October 6th, 2025, 7:50.
Second.
And so that engineering study may have happened by the next meeting? And what if the engineering study has not happened?
It'll be continued to the next meeting.
So then basically, so then we can, well, basically, we'll all show up here October 6th to see if it might have happened. If it doesn't happen, this, we get the right engineering people involved. Then we just effectively table that meeting and we go to the next meeting.
Correct.
And I'll send you the ones.
And if you wanted to avoid showing up, you need to call the office. Call the Board of Health office, they'll let you know.
All right. So, thank you very much, everyone. As you can tell, you're very happy about it. Thank you all for being.
And the cat. Get the cat out.
I gave you the cat.
Thank you. Moving on, we will have a hills and removal of the Wood Road Restoration Project.
Sorry. What's that? It's been out, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Should I just do
You can break it, yeah, absolutely.
Can she?
Oh, yeah, please have mine.
Well, you might want one too.
No, I'm over here where I'm not in the camera.
Oh, I don't want to be in the camera either.
Well, good luck, because you're gonna be.
So fun. No. So main file is this PowerPoint.
Well, that's
I could just put it in PDFs. We'll just in case.
The next one.
So many people adversely, different way.
Just in case they.
Floodplain is not shown and it should be, on both sides.
Thanks. That's not. Plans, just in case. And costly power. So the PowerPoint has a little animation. So once I'm done, if they want to flip back and forth between slides, just X it out. The presentation you remove, it's supposed to be. So yeah, there's been one. I'll just keep going. Sorry.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I'm Dover Water Resources Engineering Development. Here's your the applicant as your development entity for the development dam removal project. It has several members of our project team here with me as well as other things.
Sure, just a little message you need, DER, the local program.
Susie Resney, also with the Department of Fish and Game Division of Restoration.
Background, of course, Three Rivers.
And kind of also important. All right, so we just have a brief 10-minute PowerPoint, if that's okay. We'll just go through, I know we presented to you guys previously, so I did a recap on the project overview, but some of you want to know background more, we have extra slides at the end. So I wanted to start with just kind of a big picture of what this project is and isn't. So this is an geological restoration project, which may be near to some of you. It's a specific category project designated by DEP within the Wetlands Protection Act that have to meet a specific set of criteria, or many criteria in wetlands regulations for this type of project. And this project meets all of those criteria. It's a lot different from a development project, which you may be used to reviewing. Instead of impacting the wetland resources and floodplain and stormwater, creating stormwater impacts, it's actually benefiting those things. So this image here, hope you guys can see it from that angle. This is actually an aerial drone image over what we call lower comment. It's also referred to as the mill pond. The dam is going to be background there, water's flowing toward the dam and over it. And you can see all that really green stuff in the water. That's invasive water chestnut. It fills in very thickly over most of the mill pond and China ponds. This is actually the furthest, so it's not as thick as it gets. It's so thick you cannot, you can't swim and would not want to. You have to paddle through it. It's a breeding ground for mosquitoes, which I think you guys talking about us now, prior earlier in the meeting, so that is definitely a big area where that can thrive. And so this is not providing any sort of stormwater management or infiltration from the stormwater runoff. What this image does provide is a way to visualize what the site will look like once the dam is removed. So the main flow path that you see, I kind of labeled there, that's where the main current flows through, and that's approximately the width of the normal river up and downstream. And that is the size that we restore to once the dam is removed. It would be much more rushing than that because there's a lot of bedrock under there with the nice cascading falls. And the green areas on the sides, and would convert from this nasty water chestnut invasive species into new boring vegetative wetland floodplain. And what that will do is that will create a huge, it's actually about 10 acres in size, buffer area between the developed areas and the river that will infiltrate and filter stormwater runoff. So it's essentially like a large hydrographic. Only instead of being something that's constructed to try to mimic nature, because that's what these low impact development and green infrastructure measures try to do, it's just going to naturally develop, so it'll be naturally resilient and effective. I think that's all I wanted to cover on that slide. So I want to show you an example because many people have questioned, how do you know this is the vegetation? How do you know it's not just going to be a single mud flat? And the answer is because we've done it many times across the state. These folks in particular have worked on dozens of projects across the state, stand up the country. We're all able to well documented and peer-reviewed studies that these dewatered and impounding areas naturally revegetate from the native seabed that's stored in sediment. So here's an example. This is over in Lancaster, not too far from here. This is before the dam was removed. Go to the next slide. You can see, yes, it does look like a bit of a mud flat during construction as that water is immediately drawn down. But very quickly, within the dry season, this is just 3 months later, it's greening up and filling native vegetation. And you see that time and time again. And you can see what kind of stormwater that it has by.
Yeah, Jill, I was saying, this is like the water cost 75 years ago, West Massachusetts, we've seen this,
That's just an example we wanted to show you to kind of visualize what this project is and what kind of benefit it provides the town. So if you go ahead, this just shows a little bit more in an engineering plan format, which may be useful to looking at. Again, this is an aerial view of the mill pond, the lower conduit, dams at the upstream left corner there, going under the Faulkner Street. And on the left, you can see a lot more of the light blue, that's the water, and on the right, you can see all that coming into new water vegetative wetland floodplain that's being created. So that is essentially, one more time, the stormwater. And this is just another way to visualize the difference between how existing conditions manage stormwater versus what we're proposing. So you can see in the top image there, you've got stormwater outfalls, stormwater sources from traffic or whatever, just kind of going into the river. That is existing in this case, there's several outfalls into the river in the project area. You could construct something small, like a rain garden or something which has been proposed during engineering review. But what's naturally going to develop, as you can see there on the right, if you look one more time, is much larger, more resilient, more complex, and much more effective in filtering, treating that storm.
maybe it is about that use.
Yeah. Another thing that we've heard is floodplain. So if you look at the wetland impacts that are calculated, then now the size of the floodplain is small. And people say, well, that's an impact you're reducing the floodplain. But it's a little bit hard to think about it. We're reducing the size because we're going back to that natural river shape, that narrow shape. We're reducing the size of the likely flood. But all that previously flooding area is still available to flood as storms are increasing and larger. So here's other existing conditions. You can see the stream channel is relatively wide on the top there. Once you hit the flood this down below, there's nowhere for it to go such into the development. If you go to the next image, you can see once that stream channel is restored down to its natural size. And then the one more time, you can see now when it floods, it has that whole corner area to fill. So it can accommodate a much larger storm flow, even though the actual delineated size of the flood is smaller. And now just a few slides we have on a couple headings in the project, talking about kind of how to construct or what it involves. So this just shows the temporary construction access of the staging. So if you click through, this shows that the access areas are all paved, existing paved lots. There's one little ramp, the second clip that she can show there, is one little ramp down from the riverbank, and then the rest is the temporary access road into the river channel, to gain access to the dam. This is done, it seems like a crazy thing to do, is build a temporary road through a river. But, we work with construction firms that are very, experienced in working in waterways, and it's done all the time with no impact. The temporary access road is put in, and it's being back out with, completion of construction. So the actual land area that's being accessed is less than 20,000 square feet. The whole project is well under an acre, and there's actually no land for the Senate Hall associated project. The only part that's on bare ground is that little ramp, and there's some good archaeological resources here, so there won't be any ground sort of permitted. We'll have to have protected geotextile, 12 inches of stone laid down, for any access permitted over that area. So no land.
And anything would be beautiful.
All be, and restored. Here's just one of the typical DMPs that we'll be using during construction, showing then compost bulge stock, status, essentially, et cetera. And we did meet with DPW, we looked at all the outfalls, the drainage to the river and the environment in the area. We never got just this one that may impact the project. This is on the side of a retaining wall, once the water is drawn down, it would be kind of free falling down onto the bare ground. So we designed this riprap outlet protection. It's oversized, it has willow live stakes, willow plantings around it. So it really is truly an improvement to that stormwater. As far as water quality and river. Okay, so that's kind of about the project. Now I'm just going to quickly go through what actually we're asking for. So it's two parts, the floodplain variance and the stormwater waiver. So the floodplain variance is pretty straightforward. We're looking for a variance from chapter 5, section 5, or alteration structure that floodway. And the reason for that is, you know, we have no flood, there's no plan, there's no alternative location for this project, if it would be for a development project. And also, the project will not negatively impact the floodplain at this time. And also reduce much hazards, lower upstream flooding elevation, and kind of touch on this, but increase the storage we talked about, and also limiting the risk of downstream flooding, that we can solve from dam failure. And then the waiver, with our original application, it requested a waiver. We worked with Crystal to get guidance on which sections of the bylaw and regulations to request a waiver from. After kind of thinking about it more, talking with the peer reviewer, we determined that it's not really, waiver that we need. It's more like how the NOI Protection Act has the process for requesting determination of applicability. And that is within your framework to be able to do that. That's more what we're looking for, because we feel that the management, stormwater management bylaw regulations simply aren't applicable to this type of project, this restoration project, on both wide. So that would be kind of a simpler way to approach it. But if that's not something that, if you have mechanism for, we also feel that that would be some criteria for the waiver as well. And the basis for that is best going through, and 135 and additional. That essentially, the Massachusetts stormwater standards are not applicable to restoration projects, go through that in the application, we've confirmed that with DEP. The, town's stormwater management bylaw is not applicable to no development, or redevelopment, no land disturbance, as we just talked about. The project doesn't meet all the criteria listed in the bylaws for a waiver. It also meets the intent of the bylaws and regulations. And lastly, Mass DEP, who is the agency responsible for reviewing water quality impacts and, drinking water impacts and like of that nature. They have already issued their 401 water quality certification, which is their concurrence with the studies that have been conducted with this project. Demonstrating on that. So that's 5 items, like the 5 slides, give you in more detail. I don't want to go much more of your time, that both of those if you like, but I can pause for questions. But, Crystal, would you like to add anything to this one?
Our peer reviewer, Brian Dunn, of MBL Development is here. He had a peer review response letter that, we got to, right before the meeting. And, we could also just review that and have additional comments.
Actually, yeah, I will contact him and glossed over that, but context of kind of the process that we've been through and what we our understanding they proposed approach. So we started with the Conservation Commission last October. We got the first peer review content, 5 of those has not hearing. We're told that we then need to go to the Board of Health to get these waivers and requests squared away. But before we can proceed with finishing to address all of them, because many of them are related to requirement. So we did that with the Board of Health in June, but there wasn't really enough time to review the application materials and we talked about it kind of back and forth with a bit of a catch-22. Originally, we were saying that, you know, we were hearing from you guys that we need to go back to the Conservation Commission, address all the comments first, and finally we arrived at the agreement that you would address all comments from the NOI, except those pertaining to stormwater, we indicate that in the application or in the materials that we were assuming that they were not applicable based on these requests. Submitted it back to the peer reviewers, they had another chance to look at it. The comments are, I would say, Brian can characterize this, but it seems like we've got convertible major issues, which makes minor cleanup things. So now we're back here with these requests for waiver and variance, you know, determined or decided on, and then our hope is to go back to the Conservation Commission later this month. So that's kind of our.
To answer that, we also had Brian, weeks ago, so we talked about this.
Yeah.
And that's.
Brian,
No questions from them for us? Okay,
you want Brian?
Joe Biden.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Health. Brian Dunn with MPL Land Development, currently two offices at 5 Bristol Drive in southeast Mass, just a couple of towns away. Thank you for having me here. Yes, so we're going to do a review a couple of times. We met for a couple of hours 2 weeks ago, prior to the submission back to the Board of Health. And discussed some of the changes to the plans. The applicant's engineer has made some great efforts in addressing our comments. Some of them are minor and really, you know, can be made conditions of approval. But what you have in front of you is, you know, 2 different ways of going about this. One, you have a variance application in front of you, but if the applicant addressing the stormwater rules and regulations, chapter 5 and 6, have addressed some of those items in those regulations, which is a good thing. However, I think that granting a blanket waiver of those 2 chapters is probably not a good spot to be in. because it sets a precedence for this board. So I discussed with Jill and her team that if they were going to go with that approach to identify the regulations that they do meet the standards of some of the small water, like, we just heard the 10-acre rain garden type of thing. That's a wonderful way of treating stormwater. And that picture that Jill and the team put up about, the water chestnuts coming back into a grown, resource area, that was a wonderful demonstration of what's going to happen. So my letter that I issued really talks about some recommendations of conditions of approval. So I'm not drawing the line in the sand, you can't move further on things, but just, hey, here's some conditions. These are the things that they have to abide with, and then hopefully issue permit from the Board of Health. But in front of you is, you have two different ways of going about it. As we say in the Wetland Protection Act world, an RDA request for determination of applicability or non-applicability. So they're saying to ask you, the Board of Health, whether or not this project applies. And if it does apply, then you say you must file under the chapter 5 and 6. If you want to go along with the variance application, then we should specifically ask the applicant in the engineers to identify which ones they do provide the data for and which waivers they're specifically asking for. Because if you talk about plan contents, they're probably 80 to 90% there on the plan contents of some of the sections. But the other sections, they may not be applicable, and then therefore a waiver or granting that variance would be applicable here. So that's kind of like really where this project is. And I want to reiterate, Jill and her team has done, very well. They've made great strides and progress in providing the information for me and for Pat to review. There is a lot of information on the plans and in the reports. I do hope that you as all new members have gone through that information to identify the great effort this applicant has made. And there's just some, minor things to the plans that Jill has to make, and, like I said, conditions of approval for not just this board, but also for the Conservation Commission. So one of the things the Concom normally likes is a split rail fence, next to the resource areas to protect them, the signs and things like that. So those are some of the things that need to be added to the plans. I know that the Concom will ask for that the next time we're here. So we're front loading that with Jill and her team and giving them those details as examples to put on the plan to, get that information in front of the Conservation Commission. But getting back to this board, there's really two different ways of doing it. Request a determination of applicability or non-applicability, or granting a waiver for this applicant and its plans based on certain waivers, not blanket waivers. And I think that blanket waivers just puts you in a difficult spot for other applicants. Members of the board, do you have any questions for me right now? Okay. Jill?
I can add one thing to that, thank you, Frank. Regarding the precedent, I just wanted to point out that again, this project uses a set of very strict criteria that informed by the Act for ecological restoration projects. So you wouldn't be setting a precedent, or, whatever you decide, you wouldn't be setting a precedent for development projects to come in and request a blanket waiver. Because again, it would not be the criteria for ecological restoration. And it helps make your decision about the determination of ability. I can move these 5 slides now and just show you why I feel it's not. Okay, so this first one is Massachusetts State Stormwater Standards, which is the document that now that means municipalities that have their own standards filed. It's not applicable to restoration projects because it's not a listed project type. You can see the types listed there, none of them are permanently close to what we're doing. It also doesn't include anything conveyances, development, redevelopment, loss of groundwater, et cetera. And there are 10 stormwater standards we go through and submit each one. It's not applicable, except the stormwater BMPs during erosion and sedimentation control BMPs during construction, standard 8, and that one we are applying. Next, so the town managed stormwater management bylaw, we feel is not applicable because it, first of all, says it's applicable for any activity that results in land disturbance greater than 1 acre or less than 1 acre. We also don't have land disturbance, as we talked about earlier. And talking about development versus redevelopment, you could say, well, maybe this is a redevelopment project because it involves demolition. However, it doesn't disturb the rights or clearly indicated there as part of a redevelopment project. Criteria, meeting the criteria for a waiver, please go back one, Heather, sorry. Meets all the criteria for a waiver, it's allowed in federal, state, and local statutes, in fact, it's actually are being promoted and supported by many federal and state agencies. It's in the state, several state documents, guidance documents that all program removal has a way to improve resiliency. It's also in the public interest that we've talked about for public safety, public health benefits, state control, flood benefits, and ecological restoration of various public interests. And it's consistent with the verbs and intent of the bylaw and regulations, which I know on next slide. So you can see intent. The intent here of the bylaw is to maintain its resources and control increased runoff, decreased recharge, erosion sedimentation, non-source any source pollution. And it encourages the use of these systems that mimic natural systems because they better stimulate natural competition. So that's kind of some of the purpose language in the bylaw. And go to the next slide. I really reiterate what we've talked about, but that, you know, for the greater 10 acres of currently land under water to BW, those 10 acres will have reduced capacity to decrease runoff and non-point source pollution. It will be a resilient natural system rather than an artificially constructed one. And regardless of all the what's determined about the ability, it does meet many of the criteria outlined in sections of the regulations that Brian was talking about, such as the plan contents and erosion and sedimentation controls. And we do have those as a marked up PDF of the stormwater regulations if you wanted to look at that, what's we've met versus struck out. One more than 5 is the water quality certification that's been issued by which we talked about. So this is my justification.
What do y'all ask? This is like third time from the board, I'll obviously back sure. And I think we mentioned earlier tonight about the green layer that's really now. I really think that I would love to talk to the board about state and say, this is these types of projects, restoration projects, typically don't point it out. You really don't. Yes. And so in both of the cases, they agree that they're actually guys who have such your own board and stuff like that. But if these types of projects, these restoration projects that really need to start standard, that's not really fit. So I'll just mention that again, and we're seeing this come up a bunch, and I really respect your side, and the fact you guys have these standards for a reason. But we are fighting this, it's just like Ron back and sort of all, you know, projects, so it's a. That will change yesterday.
As Brian was saying, they have come a long way of providing information to the board on what you requested. And providing it to conservation as well. There seems to be more details that, you're asking for non-applicability, chapter 6, chapter 5, and a variance for the floodplain. So my concern initially was going, you're not asking for a variance for the floodplain, you're modifying a structure within the floodplain. But you're clearly asking for a variance for that particular section. You're asking for non-applicability of the drainage and of the chapter 6 for stormwater. I can see that you provide a lot more detail for chapter 6 in the specific sections. I've read Brian's peer review response that I read before this meeting. And there were a few, conditions that, was suggested that if the board votes a variance for the floodplain, that, certain, the elevation contours be provided on the map, just some condition. I didn't get the full read on it. But the non-applicability for all of chapter 5 was also slightly concerning to me. I know this is a unique project. It's putting around Megan Square. I completely understand that. I feel like it will have a benefit to the community. And we have come further in providing more details. I'm just concerned that we're doing, granting, non-applicability for all of chapter 5. But you have gone in depth engineering, regarding the outfalls, and we have made the plan, so it's all great. And you come further. So those are similar to comments to what Brian's provided.
Do you have a recommendation?
Well, since you're asking for a variance, we provide details for, the road that you're gonna be putting in and then you're taking out. I recommend granting a variance based on conditions of what, Brian has listed in his peer review number 3 response letter that he provided.
Chapter 5, about the non-applicability.
I feel the board, in my opinion, should grant waivers off of certain sections and chapters. And they provide to me enough detail for chapter 6 to get that waiver. That's how I feel. But not fully with chapter 5. However, you have some comments in the response letter regarding. And you guys just received that there this new.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you were
A
pushing
chance to flush it out and read it yourself.
on what specifically about chapter 5 that you feel still lacking.
So you see the copy of that?
Melissa should open that out.
It's over the end.
Come on.
So sorry, everybody.
It's getting it.
Hey, you guys.
I know. The minutes, the letter, and the passing that.
Yeah, it's getting.
No, I don't go to the.
Yeah, but if I say who chair, within my letter, I can question that the applicant identify which sections of chapter 5 and chapter 6 they need to do some. So the variance.
So, we did that for chapter 6. Chapter 5 is sections 5.2.10 and 11.
Yeah, so chapter 5 environmental miscellaneous regulations, section 5 and 2.10. Drainage review.
You're here in the program?
It's right here. Yeah, I'm just not seeing anything applicable in here, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's talking about projects with foundations or structures, projects with adding impervious area, disturbing more than 1 acre or between 20,000 square feet and 1 acre.
Yeah, so it says, you know, needs a, section 6, the following projects require an administrative site drainage approval on construction activity or land disturbance that include purpose. Alright, the common plan of development results in disturbance in excess
But
of
it-
500 square feet or more of impervious area. Projects disturbing between 20,000 square feet and an acre of square feet of land.
But it doesn't meet either of those criteria, yeah.
Then
So not
you
applicable,
waive
right? And then 11 is again, all project types that are just not applicable.
Structures.
Yeah, so it's about talking about side and drainage structures in 25 feet storm. This is all stuff that, you know, those other applicants have to do with their putting a house and the driveway or subdivision and something like that. So they have to adhere to all these things, sizes of culverts, DMPs, traffic settlements, TSF removal, those kinds of things, which we also heard that they normally have to do with the 401 dwelling certificate.
I would also feel that there's, we're not creating those things, so.
Yeah, so rainstorm event on the northern states, there's any rainfall that, all of this doesn't apply because they're not creating a parking lot or building. So then this will be away from this section as well.
Yeah,
The only thing that it has to be is, really applies is the low impact development technique of a rain garden. So the recreating of the wetland area and the resource area as a rain garden. That technically meets that standard, but the rest of it,
Yeah.
there's no discharges, there's no illicit discharges happening. So those kinds of things can be waived.
And then similarly, we did this same, we did go through chapter 6 because that seemed like more like the one that maybe could seem relevant. And, you know, we highlighted what plan contents we are providing. And then X'd out ones that are just not applicable because there's no constructed stormwater BMP.
But all the plan developments, you know, pond goals, property lines, all of that stuff. Should be applicable, just any proposed uses. And so there's a whole section of plan statements that should be met.
You feel like we met those or not?
You're close to it, it's close. That's why I made recommendations of approval.
So yeah, we can provide this, but yeah, we went through this all with Brian and talked about all this, and it's reflected on our written submittal that we went through each thing and they're just simply not applicable except for the plan contents and the erosion and sedimentation controls of chapter or section 6, which we did adhere to.
And I just like to bring back this to the first hearing, that, you know, chapter 5 and chapter 6 are chapters within the bylaw and they apply to projects where the bylaw is applicable. So under the bylaw scope and applicability, it says unless exempt pursuant to section 1.2 of this bylaw, all activities under the jurisdiction of this bylaw shall be required to obtain a stormwater management permit, blah, 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 blah. This bylaw shall be applicable to all new development and redevelopment projects. And this project doesn't meet the definition of either new development or redevelopment. There's just no development. So that's when we feel that the determination of applicability is appropriate for all of this, because the very beginning of what does any of this bylaw and any of these regulations and any of these chapters apply to our project doesn't, it doesn't meet that definition. It doesn't meet that applicability. And if you go back to chapter 5, Jill, the first point there is, it says for 5 and then 5.2.10,
Point number one, it says projects and activities that meet the jurisdiction requirements of section one of the Village of Stormwater Management Bylaw shall meet requirements of chapter 6. That's what I just read, is that section one of the Village of Stormwater Management Bylaw. Our project doesn't meet that jurisdiction. So we don't even have to look past item number 11, because it doesn't meet it.
Yeah, and so we generally felt like, beat this, that's very good ask, again, who does. We generally ask for a waiver, but I do feel like with Brian, we tried to at least say, hey, we've met these things, and we either addressed that drainage issue, and we got all these things, the standards were there, and stuff like that, because we do want to make sure that you guys do it. Our standard or if our project is there, but I agree with Kyle here that. It doesn't really apply, this is right, again, that's the route, and it's for a whole thing, so. That's kind of how we're, what I asked him to figure it out, it's not. So we, yeah.
And we just felt that the option for a determination of applicability is just, you know, a way of saying, actually, yeah, we reviewed this and it doesn't meet it, and it's a little less fraught with precedent and everything of a waiver option, but we can certainly, you know, we're open to either options, whatever you feel is most appropriate.
Yeah, that's see both sides. And I'm gonna rely on Brian's response with the conditions, that he's listed for a waiver or, the variance.
Can I comment on the conditions? Because in the call that we just had, Brian, we talked about things like the split rail fence and the signage and this, you know, snow area designation, those types of things were minor enough that they could be conditioned in the order of conditions. So because when we got that information, it was one day before we had to print the plans for this submittal. So my understanding was that we would actually not be incorporating it into the plans at this stage to get the permits. It would be a condition.
Yeah, exactly, so.
So no change has to happen.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what you just said,
Thank you.
that's what I said, so it's a condition of approval. This is prior to construction, they have to show you a set of plans with certain things being addressed.
Yeah.
The same thing with the commission, you do that all the time with the commission as well. So, with Crystal's comment, I think that what's cleaner here might be the waiver on the floodplain. The press determination of applicability doesn't apply as long as the item being addressed in the letter are being taken care of.
That would be pretty
I
neat.
think that would be a lot cleaner
Yeah.
to the Board of Health, because otherwise you're gonna have to go line by line to say a waiver on section 5.2.10, 1, 3, 6, and 7. You're gonna have to be here for a while. Voting on each waiver. So I think that would be the most cleanest way and prudent way at this time. You know, as we-
Right. I feel like this is the, one and only dam removal project that's available here.
Is there any place this would be applicable other than removing the dam?
So ecological restoration projects involve dam removal, certain culvert replacements that meet stormwater, Massachusetts stream crossing standards, so they have to be much larger structures with natural bottoms that help with flood conveyance and fish passage and all those things. Fish passage structures, daylighting of streams. Am I missing? Yeah.
Literally, like this, that's.
Those are the types, and each one has a set of like at least 20 criteria that they have to meet, state.
And the reason why I was, we were really on TV to get that this stuff is we had a mandate to try and get these projects across the state. Try to just work out some marshes, try to stop this stuff. We're trying to replace this $20,000 process, maybe we can replace it, 3,000 dams, I don't need to come down, there's a lot of, there's over 200 homes there, and this repair is simply high hazard. So we're really trying to get this done, and the reason why is the bottom line is that it's not that, so that's the whole thing. So, I think I would ask them
And one more thing to the board, you know, they had 90% of the bottom line, one go to conservation commission. They still have the bottom a few things to go 100%, so that also was part of it. Waiver and applicability is a condition for them to have to come back with the revised plans to show you that they've met all these criteria. So I would recommend that be part of your whatever approval that we want to try as a state of like state commission. Well,
Sorry. Bobby, questions, comments?
Sure. When did you all do this project start?
Next
Next spring,
well, we have to finish up all the events, and get through.
And we can't construct in the spring due to, actually, we can, we don't, there's no time of year restriction for this one, but
We
yeah.
do work with the team, primary fisheries, very closely, which is our sister division. But you know, we're always basically trying to have better.
Summer.
Right, fall, because it's just better for the host of it, like, and stuff like that.
how long was the project?
Probably in 3 months.
Yeah, 3-4 months.
Yeah. That's from like, staging, doing all the water control, we're also doing a drawdown, it puts, leak curtains around all that, water chestnut, to try and keep water in place. So that would stabilize all the place, using all the alternative flatland area, and we want that, we don't want to release that, water chestnut downstream, we're basically want to aspicate this from the back, kill it. So we're slowly draw it down, the less stuff is just the best way.
Have you guys have a problem with buying them?
Well,
Yeah, it's actually for stuff and we worked on, you know, I think, depending on what, works well. We, again, we feel that, it's not applicable, but we have, that's what you guys determine, we'll definitely,
And, so this is, I'm new to the board, this is my first go around with this. This packet, every time I was reading something, and I had a question about it in my head, this guy's read a little bit more on the question for answer. Yeah, it's a little confusing, we are applying for both options, that's kind of messing with my head a little bit, I'm sorry.
Well, the first one was just fun, and they were like, oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
So, thank you, the presentation has been great, you guys have a lot of my presentation.
Thanks, I think there's a lot of progress, in our committee meeting, we're good, but I still have a lot of questions in my head. First thing is, I just got from the lab and nobody shows this very, this, magazine, documented this feedback, so I still have to go through it, like, very, everything that, lot of concern and the that not really, it's probably not the TV, not everything that, but I was thinking about it was an infection on each other, and still like there are some. Like some clarity has to be, has to be found actually modified for this way, and under the rules of definition. And the chapter say that the time, which is not like maybe at the time, that's not still. Like it was the addition of basically still matter like time. Like what is the time?
We plan to go to our next hearing on the 22nd. But we will involve when it comes to decisions from this.
And the question of the story, like, on the information to run the videos and approval before conservation.
Yes,
meeting.
Yes, that's how it was decided, this weird project.
And then the other question is, you mentioned that you already got the BPC and it from that, but it's very project in mind. Yeah, everyone from that.
Yep, yeah, that's pending, they have to wait on a number of other state, and local.
Specifically, you can't fish until the estimation afterwards. We did just put it red lines to try and get that change to the state, and it's currently up for review, so it doesn't have to be issued on the network, but basically, right now it has to be issued.
Oh, I think it's our Bishop's mentioned. Yes, that was, the decision was denied, and it's going through a local review, from the Department of Justice.
Well, then if you're gonna be done, well,
Now, that's part of why we reviewed the position, justification, so. Just a no? Yeah. Yeah.
It is like any bylaws or. That's stuff I.
So you're going to meet.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. One second. We're reading it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No.
Let me get your information now.
I gotta admit, I spent like 5 hours reading this report, looking at each plan, going back and forth, and, my assistant, works for the state and in your group there sometimes. He's a big advocate for dam removal, and will be able to fill me in on a lot of the benefits that I wasn't aware of. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. And it is going to be 2 separate motions. First of all, a variance request of floodplain. Move that we grant the variance of floodplain regulation.
Sorry. Do we want to take them separately?
Separately, I think it's better than-
So we have a motion for a variance on the chapter 5 floodplain. We have a motion in the second on the floor. The discussion.
I just want to add a condition that, provided we get the, like, approval from the relation.
Well, they can't go to conservation until they get our approval. It goes in an order. So we have to give the approval, then they go to conservation, but they can still address all the comments at that time through conservation.
I thought we were the master.
No, not on this case.
They say the,
Well, pretty high every local.
Our mark as part of the NMI. And so, since I am for the stormwater is the regulation, look into you. And so they need to say, okay, it's not applicable or it's waived, and we read back.
Okay, this is good, and, one last thing I want to do, which I probably will ask, the she now, to the stormwater engineer, what you gonna go with, and everything, and she will know about this.
She was.
Okay. So I will put one question.
Motion second on the floor for a waiver for the chapter 5 floodplain. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that this ecological restoration is not applicable. To the other sections of chapter 5 and 6, stormwater standards. And that. And we, but I struggle with that because we don't actually have that, but the Wetland Protection Act determination, we're determining that it's, that this is not applicable to chapters 5 and 6.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Do we have discussion?
This one people are trying to, the regulation, which are like, including drainage and stormwater regulation, which we have. On the particular project, provided a condition plan, included in the.
Correct.
I think it's.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Lots of moving the dam or on to the next section. Thank you. But now you're gonna talk.
Yeah, for above, you have to reply to.
This is very.
Yes.
Love it.
All right, I'm gonna close up.
What is it?
Thanks, Yolanda.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
These are all yours. Yeah.
Oh, real funny, isn't it?
Did you put it on? No, I don't know how it was there.
That's okay, it's there. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen.
Good night, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you. We have 80 Boston Road Life Care Center of Merrimack Valley up next. Can you please come forward? So, like something before they make their presentation, or would you like them to go first?
I can just provide a little bit of a background, thank you, to bring us up to speed. So, agent conducts, comprehensive annual inspection of the facilities in Billerica. She conducted a food inspection on August 20th, and, observed, live cockroaches in the facility, had the facility close operations, and, to address the pests that were in the facility. The operations were closed, I noted this in the order of correction letter and notice of administrative meeting that was hand delivered to the facility, Life Care Center at 80 Boston Road. On, is it Thursday or Friday? I don't remember. It's
Okay, and it was August 26th, just for.
yeah, so it's August 26th, yeah. Re-inspection was done on the 27th. Ms. Collins observed the facility up and operating without, her approval. I came in later in the day, met with Bill and Mussolini, the management of Life Care Facility. Bill is the regional vice president, Mussolini is the executive director there. We talked about resuming operations. We talked about the pest control, what needs to be done. I think it was a very constructive meeting that we had. And since then, for pest control, they've mantis, pest control to fumigate the establishment. When Shayla did her inspection on 26th, she was informed by the staff in the kitchen facility that it was just fumigated the night before. Through the pest documentation that the Life Care Center has provided, it didn't feel like it was treated on the 25th, the day before the inspection. They treated heavily on the 26th, fumigated, then the pest operator was in on the following day to do additional treatment and observe cockroaches were there. Pest operator said there was nothing there, and they resumed operations. And again, we had a discussion about it and the procedures of what they need to do in order to resume operations and communication with the health department, which you had been communicating, you had been calling. I sent out emails that you didn't obtain, you didn't get, but that's not part of this conversation. So, my concern is just providing, factual information to my staff, to the health agents that, they're getting information from the staff in the kitchen, but that's not clear and accurate. And, from what you provided, the timeline from Mantis, that this has been a problem since at least February. I don't know if you had a problem beforehand. You said in the office to me, Bill, that Shayla was out there to verify. Her inspection doesn't correlate, any of the time that the pipe broke and when Mantis was out. Because she had it unverified, she was told by the kitchen staff that you were dealing with sugar ants, not cockroaches. And so I just want to make sure that we're getting factual information and that we're there to not close it down, but that you're seriously addressing pests that could carry diseases to the residents that you're serving. And we just want to ensure that you're serving safely. Like that's, I think, your main goal too, that you're keeping your residents safe and healthy. So I had a discussion with Madam Chairman, about what had happened, and she just had a couple, wanted to invite you in for a discussion about this. This isn't a suspension hearing or show cause hearing, it's just an administrative meeting of, let's clear, like, figure out what happened and how long that you've been dealing with these. What did you do when you closed? Did you get food from to serve your residents? Those are still questions that from our meeting that I walked away and I didn't know, but, I was there to ensure that we could offer and then move forward because we serve the residents. Yes, I can.
I'm Elizabeth, I am the attorneys for the facility, so just here to help. Is there a specific question or do you want us to get an overview? An overview. Oh, sure. And I will, yeah, mostly to go there, and last one to there to help out, but just generally speaking, since February, the pest control had come to light there on a monthly basis. The inspections on August 26th. And that point, we submitted a pest control program for roaches on August 26th. As Crystal mentioned, there was fumigation. The next day, the person from the anticipated speed merged and came back and did not see any roaches. The plan at that point was also to proceed down on a weekly basis with the treatments from the new test control. The facility has also retained a JP has services to come in as well, so a second opinion, a second company is coming and has given them a program that could be implemented. It's a formal 10-day program. I can mostly give more details about that.
Here's one of the things that, we did. And it is embarrassing to us. It's the first time in 35 years for River, this has happened. It was actually the first time in life here that we had the kitchen closed because of this issue. We have addressed the inner workings that we're doing and also spoken to our staff who are speaking without knowledge to direct them back to Mo so that she can address that properly with them and make the right information. We also look at the pest control that we do have and the effectiveness or the ineffectiveness of their workings, which is why we did bring in the JP. Even though we haven't announced it in the facility, JP will be taking over for Mantis. We're a little disappointed in what he's done for us. We're not done for but we're also disappointed in ourselves and how we have addressed these things, which Ms. Fossey has talked to staff in the facility department also, because it isn't just the pest control, and that's their problem, it's our problem. We are the licensee, and we do take that, very heavily. We want to make sure that we're doing the right things for the building and the town of Warner and the residents of the city. So we think we've put a good plan now into place, bringing in a new pest provider, but also looking at what we've done and possibilities of the intrusions that can come into the building, i.e. holes. Just run around the building and put a plan from our divisional facilities manager who normally handles these things for us. We just want to apologize. It's a great company. We're one of the largest in the country as far as skilled nursing providers. And it's a black eye for us. And certainly an embarrassment. So I think we've done everything that we can. And I know Ms. Foster is going to touch on what she's talked to her staff about and where we're going to go moving forward.
As Bill's already mentioned, immediately when this concern was brought to my attention, I directly met with Sheila Collins. And immediately I director that if I don't have information in that moment, I tell that state official, I will get that information to you. Unfortunately, prior to that happening, staff in the kitchen area had mentioned and made assumptions that a vendor was at the facility. In that moment, I did also mention to the inspector, Sheila, that let me get the information for confirmation. And so there has been education with my kitchen staff, but all staff. When you're not sure of information, so that it doesn't come back to us as falsified information. Let's get the information first, and then I can confirm with that direct inspector, whoever it is, here's the information that we have, so that we don't get to that point where it's documented that the information falsified. So like Bill and Carolyn have mentioned that we have another vendor put in place, but aside from that, at the facility level. Am I too loud? I'm sorry.
No, it's me on the screen, it's not you.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty, you block your face, so I have that.
Okay, but at the facility level, I'll tell you, we have not taken this lightly. We have not taken the situation lightly. And even moving forward, we don't take the situation lightly, not at the organization level, not at the facility level, we don't take this lightly. There's implementation put in place, and whatever we're getting from reports with the pest control companies, I'm providing it to you, and Sheila, in real time. Sincerely, I do apologize, there were gaps in communication. I sincerely mean it when I said I did not get a response to an email from you, and the gaps in communication. There was no sneakiness behind it, I genuinely mean it. We really take it serious, and our residents are our top priority. If I may, thank you very much for the analogy. My concern is you served food. Yes, it wasn't in a kitchen that was not approved, it was shut down. Where did you get the food from? Not at the facility, we had to order food outside from the facility, department heads, staff remained in the building, and we had to serve away from the kitchen was closed down. So no food was from the kitchen? On the 26th, when they told us, no. What about 27th? So you still were not approved to be open, where did the food come from? Right, and that's where we apologize that we did communication from my regional with, Well, what made you think the food was safe to serve from the kitchen after such a communication? Okay, because after the fumigation, the following morning, I came into the building at 4 a.m. And as well as other department heads, my regional vice president is present, it was not one live.
I think, but the question is though, is the fumigation, how is it safe?
Clean everything so quickly to serve food in that kitchen.
The
The treatment.
yeah, treatment is at the flow level. It's not a bomb.
I understand that, but you still have to clean everything. Joe?
So kind of a lot of concerns here. I had family members that have resided there, even for a very long period of time. I have a pre-hospital EMS background. I don't understand how you just, I didn't hear from anybody so at all. That really bothers me, and you're apologizing, and that's great, but it's kind of a lot short. Do you have a plan that if for some reason you could not serve food in your kitchen, that you could get food in to serve?
We do, again, this is the first time our kitchen has been closed, a kitchen has been closed. The kitchen being closed pretty much precludes all of our risks, because a stove going down, barring a fire in the kitchen, all the equipment going down or losing power. We would normally bring in food from another supplier, heat it up, get it ready, keep it safe. It really is an unprecedented situation for us that the kitchen was closed, the entire kitchen. So no equipment, no food, no coffee, no juice, nothing could come home. Normally, we are, under two different auspices. The town of Riga is the food, licensee, and then we're licensed by the State Department of Public Health. They would not close our kitchen for the same situation. So again, we would. I know of no kitchen being closed before in my 38 years. Our emergency procedures deal with staffing out, tornadoes, loss of electricity, all of those we have plans for. But an entire kitchen shutting down, basically what we would need to do is bring in a trailer, an emergency kitchen. Because nothing can come out of it. Nothing can come out, nothing can go in. Those food stocks are just sitting there. So we do have emergency procedures, but not for shutdown because of pests.
Okay, so you have a procedure in place that if you cannot use your kitchen, you don't use your kitchen, then you truck food in. Okay? Whether it's closed for pests, whether it's closed for flood, whether it's closed for fire, those things you just looked at, that plan is going to go in play. It doesn't matter what the cause is, you got a kitchen you can't.
Well, you have parts of the kitchen, you have the ability to go in and out of the kitchen when those things happen.
Maybe.
Maybe not. What would have happened though, is we would have had some kind of time frame. We would have known, you know, this is what this is going to be. The problem we ran into is the little ambiguity of the order to shut down, because it wasn't until you obtain something, until you get this, it was.
Oh, it's until you respect.
No, it wasn't, it was until it's under control.
And who means under control?
We didn't know, well, that was part of the communication that we tried to get, we just never got an email back.
That's Wilson.
Again, we did the best we could out of the situation, not having that feedback.
Bobby?
And just to reiterate, we understand now going forward that that's not the right approach. Like I said, this is a first time, they understand the most, understand how to wake up, understand that we need the approval from the board to reopen. It was a miscommunication on our end. We do apologize for that, and just speaking first time. We do have emergency plans in place if we want to, because there's an issue going forward.
But just real quick, based on your question regarding if an emergency goes down, what we should do. We have sister facilities nearby, like a primary, secondary, if that were needed. Plan, you have a temporary, intermediate, and long-term plan in place, if it were to come to that. So just.
But it did come to that. It did come to that. We shut down. The plan should have, could have, would have been put in a plan meeting.
Well, the other thing that you have to consider though is when we bring those foods in, we have no ability to bring them to temperature because the kitchen is shut. So, but going back to, we would need like a portable kitchen. But not knowing any time frames, that was impossible. It would have been impossible to put together.
So if you had gone in that following one we found a live approach, what would you have done? Serve food.
What was your plan? You didn't know when you
So
went
if
to
you
bed.
went in at 4 o'clock in the morning, if you would have found live roaches there, what would you have done?
And there lies the
You're right.
problem.
Okay.
I don't think.
I'm in. Oh,
There you go. You know, I'm shocked that there was a role like this for, and that, but in the, as a baby. I mean, it's very shocking to me. The already, just already, like I said, you know, and different reputation, right? This was paid. And, there was this very last night, you know, the rules of conditions. And another thing in the time to be, as for the event, actually, the last festival was happened on July 9, and after that, there was almost, 1.5 on that, actually. The next impression of the happened after seeing the number of people, so they know the part. And I know because why, you know, the festival was stopped.
So Atlantis was scheduled to come on a monthly basis, and my understanding is they were coming, that week, they were coming that week.
I mean,
So it had been in the month since then.
yeah, you know, those couple of months, right, but the last one of July 9, right, and after that, you know, one of the relationship, and to be a life also that and mortality, they were not there until last week of our flight, so there's a big problem.
Right, so just like Bill or, Caroline had mentioned, there's been a lot of education done at the facility level. An example, the maintenance department, expectations for the maintenance department to follow the vendor when they come into the building. So aside from the reports that the vendor is providing us, pest control, at the facility level, the expectation is that the maintenance director, the assistant designee, will follow that vendor and in real time, aside from providing reports, know exactly what the findings are. If there are concerns, it's addressed immediately. Treatment put in place immediately. I hear what you're saying in regards to why did it take 4 or 5 weeks? The last time prior to the inspector coming in was July 10th. Again, it's monthly, so Mantis was scheduled to come in that Thursday of that week. That's a month and a half.
There's a big, people plan, we already stopped the meeting or because in the July report, you are going to stop the line, right? People already did it, right?
Well, part of the, and again, we're taking full responsibility, but part of our problems are looking at pest control and his scheduling and his time limits. So we hope to fix that with the changing of the panel.
But I know what you said, I would ask you, my immediate back, every little fully when and I always would stop at this, need our education, right, and we have done so that pretty far better, the strength of us. We have strength of our area, for that proper taking, that's what I do.
One of the things that we looked at too was in February, at the initial pipe break, which looks like that was the infiltration at that time. He did come, I think, once every week for 4 weeks. I can't speak to you why that didn't happen in July. I don't know. It should have, at a minimum, it should have. What we put into place now, JP, I think it started on Friday, is, well, with Mantis till we change over on Friday is daily. He's coming daily for 10 days until we get it to where a point where we're running a weekly, and then moving forward, semi-monthly, so it'll be every 2 weeks.
Hopefully, you know, what we did is, the executive that of a time, was going to have to go with and write it before, let's say, you have to shut down the again next time, we do the other as a problem, you know. What would be the idea scenario actually, which is approved and also not a way that we should have time. So this does not mean that you just bring outside food and put in the same kitchen. Right? This is not a solution. We need to start thinking about what the solution to see the authorize the product.
While we're on the topic of the GP, yes, I know that, so we have submitted the PM from Mantis and we have the one from GP, pest services as well. I just want to point out just kind of just so thing. The PDF that was emailed, there's a scrolling within the PDF, so you print it out, it's not, it doesn't all print out. If you scroll through, it's a lot longer, when you go into it, so when you're reading it, you know, you just have to actually use the tabs in it. when looking at it, you want to, it's very detailed and going forward, like you all communicated, we're taking this very seriously. We have two properties here, we're going to be, moving on to this one, we're taking it seriously and we hear your concerns.
You know, I think, the change we made, this is the right decision, to be honest, we're not, enjoy that. But I still go back to, my biggest concern is, if this happens again, if your kitchen is shut down, I think you need, desperately need a plan to bring in food, eat it out, you know, food revenue and in a safe manner and to provide it for residents.
And that's what we're trying to do, but that would require the trailer, because the kitchen being shut down, again, never had to. Well, right, it's kind of police, yeah.
A plan is, this is how we're gonna, we're gonna get a trailer.
Just so you have, you'd be feeding the residents out of the kitchen. Right?
Okay, so if it was a temporary plan, depending on how long the Board of Health were to stay, you guys are closed and the report states you are closed until re-inspection. Temporary plan would be, for example, Lancaster Center of Leominster, food service director would be connecting with Lancaster Center of Merrimack Valley and would put, they provide assistance, and if need be, get Lancaster Center of the North Shore involved with their food service director to assist with, providing meals for the facility until we're re-inspected to you. Depending on the temporary, so that's the temporary plan. And then there's a intermediate plan, and then a long-term plan, depending on how long the situation would be, so. I'm just very disappointed that a facility of your power, of your size, doesn't have a contingency plan for its kitchen. You were dealing with highly compromised individuals. You were dealing with people's loved ones, and you're serving potentially contaminated food. Knowing that, how can you? How is that a plan? How is that a solution for someone who's paying for that privilege? What affects your brain now? How would you feel? That's the reason why I came in that morning as building. Personally. Personally. But if you need a food permit to serve food and it was revoked the day before, what makes you think? Oh, it's magically restored, because I don't see anything. What if you had seen something on the floor? What would you have done at 4 AM? What was your plan? How would you have had breakfast 3 hours later? I was immediately where I had my regional vice president there with me, communicated with my division team, and again, even though I will apologize anytime soon. I know you asked questions if it was me, if it was my loved one. The reason why I went there as early as I did was not just because of my residence. I put myself in other family members' places personally. I cannot take my job lightly. I don't. I carried every single life over my head, every night. That situation that happened, when they closed down that kitchen, my kitchen, I did not sleep. I did not sleep for a minute. So when you ask me if it was my loved one, I take them as if they're my loved ones. Ms. Crystal stated this was a conversation to ensure that there's a plan moving forward that one, it won't happen again. Two, if documented does happen again, there is a contingency plan and when everyone understands the rules. Is there anything else to add to the board?
I don't think you're ready to, you're ready to get out of bed, especially, like, and what about like, if we stand that, you know, if they should do stand that there and they're not there. And I got a backing that, you know, on your, daily life, you know, it's just not about the bubble. You know, just anymore, it's all the lack of, like, some more, their standards, you know, that is really working. And I really would think that you all have to think about that and, have you get better day or either a flash that. I get back with.
Please don't make us have to come back. Moving on. We have Board of Health discussion on product. And consider an emergency order regarding product and 7 page. So. We like this. So. I sent all the materials that we talked about last meeting, and then I was able to, you know, kind of, FDA drug fact sheet. Regarding it, I had an individual reach out Friday, I believe. That saying coming to speak to the board that has discussed this issue at other local boards of health in Massachusetts. To further educate the board, right? And that's all I had, for further education. I feel that this product, in the natural product, but the synthetic product is what we should be concerned about. And that's what's showing up at retail dash. I don't feel it's necessary to declare an emergency and vote an emergency order now. I'd still like to have a little more facts. And hold a public hearing about this. But it is within the board's authority to declare emergency, vote an emergency, or to restrict the products. I think that's the bottom of the general. But I want to make sure that we are following process. And that we have retailers in to discuss this, like why you have this product. Do you feel strongly one way or the other, that having a public forum discuss a potential regulation and could affect this is community residents would be good to follow the process. Sure, I'm assuming you have been on.
Again, my dealings with this on the job have been pretty significant. I agree with what Chris was saying as far as the synthetic problem, the synthetic, substance, does create problems. I thought it was interesting, the package we get from the gentleman who's speaking support of it. I think to be transparent, I think cannot do this as an emergency order, but to do it transparent and have open hearing would be very good.
I agree with you, Joe, yesterday.
I met
Well, my only idea actually, I was thinking that the very understand, I know the hard, on the economic potential, these democrats, and I really, let's go to that meeting, which you discussed about, the Greta actually, they officially mentioned that, the need for the Greta one, actually, coming for the next, and I don't see the power, which is very important, so I really think that we should have a very open meeting of watching, but one thing I want to highlight is that, if and we believe that, the natural be some problem, but, we are the age of the technology, that people are using sophisticated methods to actually actually different from the leaf, right? So there is one of them, I think, if you decide on the ban, then we should also be involved that anyone doing any chemical operation with a need for trying to isolate that actually from all We'll not get one, and then. And we still.
No, I never heard of this before, last meeting, we brought it up, and, you know, of course, I read the packet of information, but, I was also surprised to learn that Chelmsford is already doing it. They had 3 public hearings, and they're doing cross, getting sale. I talked to, Chief Frost about it today, and, he had concerns with the addictive nature of the product and the fact that it's controlled minor. I do feel we should take some action, but I would like to do it in a public forum, and not doing it.
Bring a public forum would be most prudent action. And I think we should schedule that sooner than later.
Yeah. Sooner it try to have October be a public forum, November, but
October. If that's acceptable to the board.
And, so I found that Chelmsford has regulations, you might want to look at that at the bottom, and another one.
Drainage has regulations
Yeah.
as well, and it's either Lowell or Lawrence that has regulations against it as well.
Maybe select those, for our tactics. Well,
And when we drop our regulations, we need to make sure that we don't just use the branding.
Correct.
I think the chemicals that we'll look at, and because they're names, brands.
Right, because we follow the crowd, but don't use the 7-08, we can be in trouble because it's not this, it's this. So yes, definitely have to be broader. And I thank you very much for being willing to address that. That is all that is on our agenda.
Okay.
Yes,
So, I've been preparing the draft, so the other regulations for our public hearing in October. Do you want to consider it a draft if we can get it done? At that hearing, or do you just want to have a public hearing to have the opportunity to have the public come in and provide comments, and then we can work on a draft after that? How would you like to move forward with this?
I would say have a draft ready for the public hearing, it gives us the option. If something is earth shattering in the public hearing, then we don't have to vote it, but I think to be ready to go. At that point would be advantageous.
Bobby?
I think that would be anything to follow, so.
And then,
Yeah, and if you need, and you have for regarding, I think has something language to that come from, like, you know, I know the structure is everything. That's great.
I think I can ready to involve in the happy, and so. I'll also look it up, done for people, we can do that.
They're all pretty close, so they're all kind of.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Thank you, that's probably,
anything else? John? Okay, so we're going to have a public hearing, potential draft regulations for a potential vote, so we can work directly for the agenda, so we don't have a misstep. All right, is there anything else to discuss that is not on the agenda that came up without? No.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All those in favor to adjourn? Opposed? Unanimous. Go home. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Bristol.
You feel something doesn't feel like wow.
We're not in these.
Oh, we adjourned.